Right. Good morning, everybody. Today we actually caught up. Today is Daf Nun Gimel, Maseches Eruvin. So we're going to try and get a little bit ahead because once again we're going to fall behind over the 2-day Yontif. So we'll try and at least maybe do almost try and do a blot extra over the next 2 days total. All right, half a blot each day. We're not going to do a half blot today because it's a long blot, but we'll get there and eventually we'll catch back up. So at the bottom of Nun Beis, Amud Beis, the beginning of the 5th parak, Maseches Eruvin. So it starts off at the bottom of Nun Beis, Amud Beis, Keitzad Ma'avrin es ha'Irim. How does one go ahead and Ma'avrin, right? We're going to assume the question in the Gemara, it's the Lashon, but how do we go ahead and we connect, how do we count a city, right? Not every city is even, is done perfectly like a square. So you have cities that are circular, you have houses that are protruding. So Se'irim, so Bais Nichas, Bais Yaitze, you have some houses that are sticking out, some that go in. Pagam Nichas, Pagam Yaitze, you have towers in and out. Hayusham, Gedudiyos, Gavois, Asar Tfachim. If you have ruins that were 10 Tfachim high, or Gisharim, turn the page, or bridges, of nefashos, or even buildings that people have been buried in, nefashos, and sheish behem beis dir, and those have basically an occupying house attached to it. So maitzin asamida connected. You go ahead and you basically you count those. All those are considered to be important structures to be included in part as basically like a house as part of the city. Va'aisin aisa can mean tavla merubas kadesh nizkar kol esazavios. And then you use these and you can use them to go ahead and measure out a square. Basically, the city has to be a square. So if you have different areas that are sticking out, so it comes out, we basically make straight lines. We make 4 straight lines. Probably will not be a square, probably will be more of a rectangle. But you make 4 square lines around, extending to each as far as the most furthest protruding thing comes out, and then the other side, and then therefore you square it out, and then from there you measure out, because now you get the addition, or you have extra corners. You have extra corners to go ahead and measure 2,000 out from those areas. So that was what the Mishnah said. So you squared out the city, and then after you square it off, then you go ahead and you measure 2,000 in all directions. Now, Zok the Gemara. Rav Ushmuel, Chad Tani Ma'abrin with an ayin, v'Chad Tani Ma'abrin with an aleph. So is machlekas, or is to in terms of how it was written originally? What was the text? Was it Ma'abrin with an ayin or Ma'abrin? So Ma'ad Tani Ma'abrin aver. The one that says Ma'abrin with an aleph, it comes from the word limbs, right? An aver, or aver is a limb. So knows Kate said, all right, Kate said Ma'abrin is how do you have all the limbs? Each of these houses are like limbs to the city. Umandatani Ma'abrin, Kisha Uber. And the one says Ma'abrin, it comes to the lashon of Uber, like pregnant, right? You're sticking out. So, and now speaking of different lashonas, Ma'aras HaMachpela. So, Rav Shmuel, Chad Omar Shnei Batim Zelifnim Zeh. One says is one within the other, an inside and outer room. Chad Omar Bais V'Liyal Gabo. It's like a house with one on top. So I'm going to go not a little fast today, but I'm just going to try and read fast because, like I said, we have a lot of ground to cover. If you look at the blot, pretty large. So I understand what it says when he says it's a double, right? Like a double cave. So one on top of the other is double. But if you have one inside the other, that's not really considered to be a double. That's very common. So the answer is shekfulo is bezugos. So in other words, what's a double with pairs, with couples? People who have been buried inside, as we'll soon see. In Mamre Kiryas Arba, so it says Mamre is a Kiryas. Kiryas is a city, or Kiryas of city of 4. And Amra B'Yitzhak Kiryas Ha'arba Zugos. It's a city of 4, the 4 couples that were buried there. Adam Chava, Avram Sarah, Yitzchak, the Rivka, and Yaakov and Leah. So all 4 couples were buried in Masar Achpela. And if you want to go ahead and check it out, you can still go to Israel and visit there in the city of Hebron. Now, Vahi Bimei Amaraphel, it says in the days of Amaraphel, who was one of the Malachim, I believe he's one of the 4 Malachim when they're waging wars in time of Avram Avinu. And Rav Shmuel, once again, Rav Shmuel, Chad Omar Nimrod Shmuel. So it was really Nimrod was his name. So why was he called Amraphel? Shamar v'hipil Avram Avinu b'sach kivshana eish, right? Amar v'hipil, right? Amrafel. Amravi says, go ahead and throw Avram Avinu in the fiery furnace, and we know Avram he was thrown in, and he came out a whole, and he was the one who said it. The other opinion between Rav and Shmuel said Amrafel Shmuel, Nimrod. Really, his name was Amrafel, and why was he called Nimrod? While he was king, basically he made everyone rebel against himself, which is really rebel against the Kadosh Baruch Hu, and therefore he was called Nimrod, right, to rebel. And furthermore, another famous pasuk, Rashi brings down this Gemara, the new king came over Mitzrayim by Paro. It says, Rabbi Shmuel Chadam Chadash Mamish. One opinion held that it was Mamish, a new king. Then one says, no, it was the same old king. However, he had new decrees, new, more harsher decrees. So Ma'adimar Chadash Mamish, Chadash says new, so it means new. Ma'adimar Nischadshu Gzerosav. Right? The reason why the other one says, no, it's the same king, it just new decrees which were more wicked, is because it never said the previous one died. So it didn't say the previous one died, so therefore it assumed it to be the same one. What I mean, the one who says it's the same king, so why did it say he didn't know Yosef, right? You know Yosef. So, Yosef, the Havi Demi, command Yosef. He acted as if he didn't know Yosef, but really he knew him. Obviously, knew him very well, but he acted as if he didn't know Yosef, and therefore it was like a stranger to him. And Rabbi Yochanan says, Rabbi Yochanan, Shmona Asar Yamim Gidalti Eitzel Rabbi Yeshua B'Ribi. 18 days I grew, or I was by Rabbi Yeshua B'Ribi v'loy lamanti mimenu elo davar echad b'mishasein. I only learned one thing from our Mishnah. Keitzad ma'avrin sa'arim ba'alef. When he taught this Mishnah of Keitzad ma'avrin sa'arim, how do you go ahead and extend the cities? So it's referring to Avin like a limb with an aleph. Aini, is this so? Did he only? This is the only thing learned from him. Rabbi Yochanan said, "Tell me how you Rabbi Yeshua B'Ribi." He had 12 Talmidim were to says Rabbi Yochanan. This is Rabbi Yochanan's statement, right? So he had 12 students. I was with him for 18 days, like we said before. And I learned from each one's heart and desire, and each one's wisdom, and I learned from all the students there. So you see that he learned more than just the Mishnah, right? The lashon of the Mishnah, whether it was an aleph or an ayin. So Gemara says, no, Gamar lo kamar. Maybe it could mean that he just learned from each and every student. In other words, he learned about them, their intellect, their wisdom. He learned all that from them, but he didn't learn anything besides the Mishnah. Maybe that's what it means. Or you go to Sema, or Minayu didu gamar, Mine dide lo gamar. Maybe he learned from them. He learned a lot from them. He learned many chachma and wisdoms from them, but he didn't learn from the Rebbe only for one thing. And Viboy Sema or Davarecha Mishasena Kamar. Maybe he means he only learned one thing for a Mishnah. He learned many other subjects, but when it came to our Mishnah, he only learned one thing, that it was written with an aleph, not with an ayin. The Amar Rabbi Yochanan, furthermore, says Rabbi Yochanan about his experience at Kshein Elohim, Dim Torah Eitz Rabbi Yoshia. Hainu Yoshin Ba'arba Arba B'Amad. Right, there were four of us within one Amma. We were all, squished together. And Amar Rebbe says, Rebbe Ksheisi Lemdim Torah Eitz Rabbi Elazar ben Shamua. When we were by Rabbi Elazar ben Shmuel, there were 6 of us squished into one Amma, miraculously. And Amar Rabbi Yochanan, Rabbi Yoshia, B'Ribi B'Daro, Karameir B'Daro. Rabbi Yoshia B'Ribi was to his generation like Rabbi Meir was in his generation. Ma Rabbi Meir B'Daro lo yachlu chavir lamad al sav daito. Just like by Rabbi Meir, no one could basically get to the depths of Rabbi Meir. No one can really understand him. Right? He was on his own level. Rabbi Yoshia lo yachlu chavir lamad al sav daito. So to Rabbi Yoshia, right? No one was on his level. And Rabbi Yochanan, Liban shel Rishonim kapitzcha she'olam. Right? The hearts and the minds and the wisdom of the earlier generations, we'll soon explain who they are, was like the Pischa, like the Pesach, the opening of the Ulam, which was very large, which was 20 amot, which was double of Shachron and Pischa Shehecha. And the later generations were only like the entrance of the Heicha, which was half of that. V'anu, and us, who came after the earlier generations and the later generations, and us, right? And this is not even speaking about us, this is speaking about them. V'anu kamali nekev machat sidkis, right? We are basically like the eye of the needle, or that small compared to the others. And Rishayim, who were these? Rishayim, Rabbi Kiva, that was Rabbi Kiva. And Achrayim, who were the Achrayim? That was Rabbi Elazar ben Shmuel, who came later on. And Nigadam, Rishayim, Rabbi Elazar ben Shmuel. Some of the Rabbi Elazar ben Shmuel was Rishayim. That was after Rabbi Kiva, but that was Rabbi Elazar ben Shmuel. And Achrayim, Rabbi Yeshua B'Ribi. And the Achron was Rabbi Yosef Ribi, Va'onu, Kamali, Nekev, Amacha, Tzidkis, and we are like basically the eye of a needle. And Amar Abaye, and says Abaye, right, how little our brains, says Abaye, Va'onu, Ki Sichsa, Beguda, Legamra, right? For us to try and understand different subjects, it's like trying to take a peg, right, and poke something in a solid wall. It doesn't go through. The chachma doesn't go through. And Amar Rava, and said Rava, Banan and us, Kiadz Basa, Bekira Svara. And right when it comes to Svara, we're like going ahead and putting a finger in hard wax, which also doesn't go through. And Amar Ravashi, Kiadz Basa, Bebira L'Shicha. Right, and when it comes to forgetting things, right, where it's like putting a finger inside a whole big cave, right? Obviously, there's a lot of room, so we easily forget things. And Amar Rav Yehuda, Amar Rav, Bnei Yehuda, Sheikpida L'Shainam, Niskaimo Tarasam Biyadam. Those people of Yehuda, they were makpid on the L'Shainam. They were makpid as soon as it mean for that which they spoke about, right? The Torah Rabbeinu with them, they remembered it. And they Golo Shalei Bidal L'Shainam, and the people of Golo that were not makpid on their speech, Tarasam Biyadam, they did not remember their Torah. So media b'kpida taymusa. What is it? Is it talk? Is the chachma? Does it depend on if a person is makpid on what he says? Is hekbila shaynam? Elo b'nei Yehuda the died lishna. Right? B'nei Yehuda was very meduyak in the lashon. Right? In terms of their limudim and what they taught. Right? They were very medayik, and therefore masnachalu simana, and they used to make simanim, different ways and signs and symbols to go ahead and remember different gemaras. So then the Torah was remembered in the hands. However, but the people of Golo, that they were not so particular in the lashon of the Braisas, and they did not go ahead and basically have different memory symbols and signs. Then they did not remember, the Torah did not stay with them, they forgot it. Now, Bnei Yehuda Gamru Michad Rabba, and this kind of Torah biyadam, the people of Yehuda, they learned from one Rabbi, and therefore their Torah was miskayim with them. However, Bnei Gala Delay Gamru Michad Rabba, right? They learned from people of Gala, learned from many teachers. Learn Niskayim Torah biyadam. Their Torah was not niskayim with them, did not stick around. And Ravina Omar Bnei Yehuda the Gali Masachta. This kind of Torah biyadam. The people of Yehuda, they revealed, they went into the depths of the Masechta to understand the reasoning behind stuff. Therefore, the Torah was miskayim with them. However, they go to the Masechta, they did not go into the reasoning. Therefore, the Torah was not remain with him. And David Gali Masechta, Sholo Gali Masechta. David was Magal Masechta, but the Shol was not. David Gali Masechta. See the Bay. The pasuk says, Yire'echa, those who fear you, Hashem, Yeruni will fear me. They will fear winos. They will look into. I guess they will see that which David HaMelech was teaching, and V'yismechun will be happy with his Torah, because he explained. He got to the matters. He was Megal Masechta and Shal like Gal Masechta. See, but Shal, how he was not, says V'chol Asher Yifna, any way which you turn the page. Yar Shia, right? Will be wicked. So anyway he turned. Basically, his Piskei Halacha will not be correct. And the Rabbi Yochanan said, Rabbi Yochanan, Minayin Shemachal Kodesh Baruch Hu Al Oisin Aban. Where do you see that Kodesh Baruch Hu was forgiving for Shal for that? Shnamar Zebach says, Machar Ato V'necha Imi. Tomorrow you and your sons will be with me, Imi Mechitzasi, with me on my side of the partition, my side of the Mechitza. Fine. Omar Rabbi Abba Iika Demasha Lahu Bnei Yehuda Daiki Lishni. Is there anybody from Yehuda? Okay, you said people from Bnei Yehuda were Meduik and Lashon, right? We'll see if this is helpful or not. Is it Ma'abrin Tanan? Oh, Ma'abrin Tanan. Is it with an Ma'abrin with an Aleph or Ma'abrin with an I? Right? Or we have another Mishnah in Becharos where it's talking about the different mum. So it says over there, is it Achuzo Tanan or Achuzo? Right? Is it an Aleph or an I? Right? One of them is an Otiot Groniot, right? You know that, right? I'm sure Azi, when he pronounces it, when he lanes, right? He's one of the Gronios, right, with your Aleph Ayin, right? And the other one's all in Aleph. So which one is it? So Yadi. So Shalina, they asked the Brahman, then it says, Ika Tatani Mabrin, Vika Tatani Mabrin, Vika Tatani Akuzo, Vika Tatani Akuzo, right? So some with an Aleph and some with an I, and yes, they're both versions in both ways, and therefore, yes, they were Medayik. However, their answer was not complete, as there are people who taught it both ways. Now, Bnei Yehuda, the Daiki Lishna Mahi. Where do we see that they're Meduik and Lashayt? What does that mean? They're very careful with their speech. So Mahi. Now we're going to give several examples of people even regular people being particular with their speech. So Mahi Dahu Bar Yehuda Damerluhu Talis Limkor. So a person from Yehuda says, okay, I'm looking to sell a talis. So Amalei, my Gavan Talisecha. So what color is it? Samalu. Kechardin alay adama, right? Like they beat over the ground. So it's being very particular as to the light, of the color, the shade, and because it could look different kind of background. So it says very particular. And Bnei Galil the Ladaik, the Shana of the P of Galil, who are not Maduik and Lashonim, Mahi, or they say they weren't particular in the way they pronounce things, or even the words that came out. Do Bar Galil the Havi cause of Amar Laman. Someone was saying Amar, right? Amar, right? It just sounds like a little like who has an Amar? And Amarle, and this is the Galil said they really couldn't hear so well, what he was saying. You sort of swallowed his speech. So Galil is shaita, right? This person from the Galil is a shaita. So is Chamar Lemirkov? Is he saying Amar or Chamar? Right? Maybe he's looking for a donkey to ride, or Chamar Lamishti, or maybe Chamra, right? Chamra is also wine to drink, or Amar Lamilbash. Maybe he's saying Amar with an ayin. Right, lamilbash, to go ahead and wear basically like cotton, right, or wool, not cotton, right? Cotton comes to right, so wool for the animal, or is it imar is kasa, or is it referring to maybe you want to go ahead and referring to a sheep, but to shechtit. So very unclear. There's people of Galil as to what they said. And I said the one time a woman wanted to say to her friend, "Tai the chila chelba, come and I'll give you some fat, some chalev to eat." And Amar, but what came out said shaluchti, instead of saying come, says shaluchti, which doesn't really have a meaning. Tochilcha lavia, right? A lion should go ahead and eat you, right? So a lion should eat you. Once again, didn't really make sense. And a similar case, how Isis Adasi the coming the Dino one time, whether she had a speech impediment or not, we don't know. But a woman came before a judge, and she wanted to go ahead and complain that something was stolen from her, a tavla. But what she say? Amarle Mari Bari. First, she says Mari Kiri instead of saying right, referring to him as a judge, right? She referred to him as a Kiri, which is also another word for a slave. She basically called the judge her slave. So tafla instead of saying tavla hayisi li. I had a beam. She said to him. Then she says the gavuich min. And they stole you from me, right? That she didn't mean to say that. She meant to say that it was stolen from me, right? Ukadu havis, and then she says, now it was, which doesn't make sense. The chad shadila, right? And then she said, they will hang you from it, right? They're basically telling the king, and loy mati kari ara, and your feet will not reach the ground, right? She went and said, she really was saying how big was this tavla, but it came out all the wrong way, and therefore she was misunderstood. And this is an example of the people of the Galil not being careful with the Lashona. And Amasa, the Rebbe, however, the Amasa, the maidservant by in the house of Rebbe, Kihavi Mishtay B'Lashon Chachma. She used to go ahead and use Lashon Chachma when speaking to the Rebbe, when speaking to the students. So she says this. So Allah's Nakpas Bakat. She said the Yidu Nisharan Likineim. All right, Allah is like a ladle, right? The spoon in the big pot, so it's hitting the bottom, right? The eagles should go ahead into their nest. And I'm basically saying that the food is done. Now it's time to go ahead and get back to your studies. However, when she wanted them to go ahead and stick around, she told them, Yadi basa chaver tamina. Right? She didn't want to say first, let's go ahead and open another barrel. But she said, right, a piece will be removed. Basically, the stopper, which closes up the barrel, will be removed. These kafi alas bekad beilfa da'azabiyama, right, and let the ladle float on the top, just like a boat floats in the sea. So basically, saying that I'm going to go open up another barrel of wine, and everyone should stick around, and we'll continue to eat. And Rabbi Yasi bar Asin ki havi mishtei b'lashon chachma Amar, when he used to go ahead and use lashon chachma, right? Amar, he said asuli. Shor mishpat betur miskem, almost like riddles, right? Shor mishpat, right, is another word of shor, right? Is tar, right? Sometimes the shor is referred to as a tar in Aramaic, but mishpat din, right? Tar din is also a word for beets, right? So tar din, and then it says betur misken, which means a poor mountain. What is it? The word for poor mountain. So har or char, right, mountain, dal is poor. So char dal basically beats in mustard. That was what we said. We also wanted to ask, hey, how was the Ushpiza? How was the host doing? Amarachi said this, Gvar pum dein chai. right? Says over here, gavar, right? Ish, right? Ushpizin is ish pe zeh, right? Ish pe zeh is gavar. Ish is a man, right? Pum, right? Mouth. Din, this, right? Chai, is he alive? Right? How's he doing? Ma mazu tiva yesh, right? How's he doing? Rabbi Avo, ki havi mishtei b'lashon chachma. Rabbi Avo used to go use lashon chachma. Havi amar hachi. He would say this: esrog lepavchin. Right? Let this, let the coals be like an esrog. Let it be light. Let it, let it glow. Basically, heat up the coals. And our kiyu lazavin, or spread it out like the gold. And vasuli shnei magide balata. And go ahead and prepare for me to magide alata, those that call out darkness, i.e., roosters. Right? They make noise as to when the sun rises, right? And go ahead and prepare for me with the coals, two of these roosters to go ahead and eat. And the Rabban to the runs of the Rabbi Avo, it's binu heichan Rabbi Eloi b'tzafa. So he says, okay, where is Rabbi Eloi? Where is he hiding? Right, Tzafon, where is he hiding? Samarlan, Alatz benara. Aharonis, Achronis, Eronis, V'hinirasu, right? Use the same lashon, right, all together. So he says he's alotz, right? He went with a nara, right, a young woman, Aharonis, right? She is she's a Kohen, Aharonis, Achronis, she's the youngest one, right, of her family. Eronis, a live one, V'hinirasu, and she kept him alive. Actually, not kept him alive, kept him awake. So Amrei Le'id, some say is referring to a woman, i.e. he just got married. Remember that some say it was Masechta, right? It was Masechta, basically in Nashim, that he was learning all night. So Amrei Le'id, Hitzpino Heichan Rabbi Avo Tzafon. So where is Rabbi Avo hiding? Samarlan. Besides, B'machtir, V'hingiv L'mifiboshes, right? So he said, basically, he got Eitzah, he got advice from a machtir, from a crown, from a someone who's important, like a prince, and he said, "Go ahead, and go ahead." He went south to Mivoshes to go ahead and learn. And Amar Rabbi Shua ben Chananya miyami lo nitzchani adam chutz meisha tinag v'sinokas. Right, during my days, right, no one ever beat me in a conversation, right, except for three people: one time a woman, one time a young boy, one time a young girl. Isha mahi, what was them? So the three different mice. One time, what was the mice with a woman? So one time I went by a certain achsania, a certain inn, and osteli pulin, she made for me beans one day. So first day he ate them all. Second day he ate them all. And the third day he kadachsan b'malach. She basically, she put too much salt in it, too salty. So once I tasted it, that I basically put it down. I wasn't going to eat it anymore. It was disgusting. So how come you're not eating? So I said to her, oh, I already ate. So she said to me, right? Well, I understand why. If you already ate, though, why did you eat all the bread? Right? You just ate all the bread. I just saw you eat all the bread. Right, so you shouldn't have eaten right. If you were full, you shouldn't have eaten bread. And Amrli, and maybe you say Rabbi Shemeloi Nachti Peverishayim, right? Maybe what you're saying is that you ate all earlier and then you didn't leave anything over, right? Right? You don't go ahead and right? You don't leave any in the pot, but you leave some on the plate. So now, if you indeed ate something over earlier, then there should be leftovers from the previous, because it's not proper to go ahead and completely eat everything from the plate. So therefore, basically, as they say nowadays, right, she took the W, right? She took the W. She basically, got the best of them in that conversation. And furthermore, Tinokus, what was the case with Tinokus? So but there one time he was going the way of Haisi Derech Averes Basad, and it looked like it was a used walkway over there in the field. When I walked in this, and it looks like it was already a path, that people, walked in before many times, and it was like a dirt path. And I walked this. Right? Is this not someone's field? Why are you walking it? What do you mean? It's already the rabbin already uses it. Why shouldn't I be able to walk? We see people have already walked here. Right? She said, yeah, the reason I was walked in is because people like you, people who thieves, listim like you, walk in it without permission. So, and she was right. So he did Mayasafer and Tinok Magi. What was the case of the Tinok? I saw a kid by the fork of the road. So okay, which is the quickest way to the town? This one is short and long. And then this one's long then short. So okay, so I took the short one and then the long, or a short and long route. So Kevan she get to the ear, Matsasi Shemakifin, I saw Gana Superdesa. Once I got there, then I saw that basically that area was blocked by gardens and orchards. And Chazarti Lacharai, so I turned back, Amarti Lo, I said to him, Beni, my son, Hello Amarti Li Ksara, didn't you tell me there was the short path? So I went all the way there, I had to come all the way back. So Amarli, did I not say short and long? So Nashakti al Roisha, Vimarti Lo Kisam al Hen, I said to him, Ashrechem Yisa Shakulchem Chachamim Gedolim Atem, Miglechem Be'ad Kotanechem, right? Great is you, the Jewish people, because they're great in wisdom from old down to young. Rabbi Yossi Haglili Havi Ka'azil Ba'orcha Ashke Lebruria. One time Rabbi Yossi Haglili was going, he came met Bruria, who is I believe the wife of Rabbi Meir, right? And Amr La, he said to her, okay, how do I go ahead and get to Lod? Amr La, Galili Shaita, right? Why did you say Be'ezed derech nelech lelod, right? You're a shaita. Al derasichim isha hayelach halayma, right? Hayelach halayma be'ezed lelod. You should shorten your words and just say ezed lelod. But you said be'ezed derech nelech lelod. You increased, basically, you doubled your words with a woman. You shouldn't have done so. And she was very, very charif. And Bruria, Ashke, another time Bruria, Ashke said, hello, Talmid. One time she found a certain Talmud Havi called Garis Belisha. He was learning quietly. He was reading over the Gemara, whatever he was doing, quietly, either whispering or with his eyes. So what did she do? Bud Shebe, right? She kicked him. Samar Lai Kach Kos doesn't say Arucha Bakol Lishmura, right? You should go ahead and Arucha, right? Like Aruch, like arrange it all, Bakol, all of it, Ushmura. So if arucha beramach evar mishacham mishtameres v'im lav in mishtameres. If you go ahead and use your entire body with all of your limbs, with your ramach limbs, right, your 248 limbs, then you will remember it. So by saying it out loud, by being active, then you'll remember it. However, mishtameres, if you just sit there and read it like a book, then it will not be mishtameres. You will not go ahead and remember it. And Tano, Tamid Achayel Rabbi Eliezer Shaya Shana Belachash. One time Rabbi Eliezer, the Talmud, was learning quietly. After 13 years, he forgot his limud. And Tana, and similarly, just by the way, FYI, we're going to get down to the two dots like smack in the middle of the page. Just if any of you have to leave early, right by 2 dots by the simon. Anyway. So I just did this. So one time he did something that he should be chayiv sreifa. Amru hey nichalo adam gadol shimesh. They said to him, even though he's chayiv misa, however, he learned by a great man. So you see that this Talmud, right? Not only did he forget, but he even came to the point of where he was chayiv sreifa. And Amr Shmuel Rav Yehuda. One time Shmuel said to Rav Yehuda, Shinana psach pomech karei. Right? So he says, go ahead and say, open your mouth when you learn psach pomech tani. Right? And go ahead and read and go ahead and teach. Ki heichadis kaim b'cha the Torah chaya. In order that the Torah will be with you and it will live. Shenamar Zbaz says, Ki chayim heim l'moetzeyam l'chol b'soram marape. Right? Because you said that it's life. Right, the Torah is life. All those have it, and it will heal them. So, don't say to those those people will take it out, say it out loud. So if people say it out loud, right, then it's like that will be a meraper, that will be a healer. And Amarle Shmuel Rav Yehuda Shina Chatuv Echel Chatuv Ishti. Go ahead and grab it and eat, and grab it and drink. Right? Because soon this world will be no longer, right? It's like Hilule, it's like a wedding, right? Quick, go ahead and take from the treats, from the mishmor, because soon it's going to be over. And Amar Le Rav Hamnuna B'nei Yesh Lecha Heitev Lecha. Right. So if you have, go ahead and enjoy from this world. Right. So the Shein B'Shal B'Tanug. Right. Because there is no Tanug, there is no enjoyment in the grave. Ein Lamos Yislamea. And there's no enjoyment in the grave, and death will not wait for you. It doesn't wait till you are Right. And if you say, okay, well, I'll leave over my fortune to my children. Who's going to tell you whether they ever got the money left over? And people are similar to the grass of the field. Right? Some grow, some do not. In other words, so it could be here today, gone tomorrow, as my father always says, right? And then also, so over there, so even though he leaves over money to the children, maybe they get to use it, maybe they don't. So we don't know. So Amar Rabbi Yeshua ben Levi, Hamahalich b'derech veinimo levaya. If a person is going, he's traveling, and he has no one with him. Yasek b'Torah. He should go ahead and be Isaac in Torah, and that will basically accompany him. Shinamar, as the pasuk says, ki levias achenheim, right? Because this is basically a levaya is an accompaniment, and a chash b'roishi yasa with Torah person has a headache. He should go ahead and learn Torah. Shinamar be levayis achenheim l'roshecha, right? It will be also good for your head. So a chash b'grown person has a throat ailment. Yasa with Torah. Shinamar, as the pasuk says, v'nakin l'rosecha, right? And it'll be like a necklace for your throat. And chash b'mav yasek, the third person has something with his loins, with his stomach. Yasek with Torah shnamar refuas tia l'sharecha, right? It shall be for your stomach. And chash bas meisav, the person has pain in his joints, in his bones. Yasek with Torah shnamar v'shikui latzmosecha, right? And it'll be a marrow for your bones. All right, and chash b'chol gufo, and even if his body is in pain, yasok b'torah shnamar l'chol b'sara marap, and all his flesh will be healed. And Rabbi Yehuda Rabbi Chia, midas b'sar v'dam. We see HaKadosh Baruch Hu is not like man. Midas b'sar v'dam, adam naisei sam l'chaveiro l'zay yavel l'zay kash. A person can go ahead and give medicine. Some people it works for, some people it doesn't. It doesn't work for everybody. But HaKadosh Baruch Hu ain't a When it comes to HaKadosh Baruch Hu, it's not like this. Nasan entirely Yisrael sai sam chayim l'chol gufo shnamar l'chol b'sar marape. But however, when it comes to people, then HaKadosh Baruch Hu gave this medicine, i.e. Torah, and that is for the entire body and every single person. And Amar Avami, my dichsi was a pasuk mean kinoim ki shmarim b'bitucha yikoinu yachtav al svasecha. That the words of Torah are sweet on one's lips and in your stomach and on your lips. When is the Torah sweet, right? When it's in your innards, right? When it remains in your stomach. When is it in your stomach? Right? When they're on your lips. So if you go ahead and you're talking Torah, then they will ultimately be established, throughout his entire body. Over here says Simchas Leish. It said a person has a happiness, right, with his answer in his mouth, right, and in its time, right, how good is it? So when is there a simcha for a person? When he has the answer in his mouth. Some have different lashon. When does he have happiness in his mouth? Right? In other words, when something is studied at the right time, that is also matov. How good is that? And Rabbi Yitzchak says over here, right? When something is very close to you, it's in your mouth and in your lave to do it. So when is it close to you? Right? It's in your mouth and your heart to go ahead and do it. And Rav Amar Mehacham, Rav said in this passage it says, Tavas liba nasati lo, right? The desire of his heart I give him. The Areshes Sefasav Bal Manata Sela. So it says over there that the desire, right, that was in the Tavas Liba Nasad, I put the desire right in his heart, and the speaking of his lips, right, you have not been monet, you've not stopped. Right, so Amosai Tavas Libo Nasata below. When is that put in his heart? Bisman Sharesh Sefasav Balminasela. If you don't stop uttering it, then it will become part of your heart. And Rav Rami Ksiv, and Rav says pasuk Tavas Libo Nasati Lo. Right, I've given the desire in his heart, and says Ksiv Sharesh Sefasav Balminasela. And then it says over there they'll be on his lips. So Zacha Tavas Libo Nasata Lo. If a person is Zeicha, is fortunate to have Tavas Libo Nasata Lo, if he is fortunate to have in his heart, then Lo Zacha. Then somebody who is not zocha is somebody who is basically on his lips and is not and is not with him. In other words, if that person does not, so the person who is zocha, that person basically will even have it without ever uttering it, and the other person who's not zocha will not have it because he didn't desire it. And Tana debate Rabbi Eliezer ben Yaakov, and finally it says Rabbi Yaakov, Kol Malchus Shenamar, anytime it says the word Netzach, Sela, Va'ed, and if it says those three Lashonos, Ein Lo Hefsek Alamis. It means it goes on forever, there is no stoppage. Netzach Desiv, Ki Lo Li'elam Ariv Lo Lenetzach Ektzaf, right? He says he won't be angry forever, Lo Lenetzach Ektzaf, he won't be angry forever, Kadosh Baruch Hu, and Sela Dechsiv, Hashir Shemanu Kein Reinu Ba'ir Hashem Tzavakas, Ba'ir Elokeinu, Elokim Yechainu Ad Olam, Sela. It says over there that he will go ahead and establish his malchus and look over the city, Sela forever, and it says Ved Hashem Yimloich L'Olam Ved. Hashem will rule L'Olam Ved. So Ved in this case also means forever. All right, we'll stop here. So tomorrow morning, Mitzvah Hashem, we'll also do the same time. We'll try and get a little, once ahead. The blot still appears long until the next blot. So everyone have a wonderful day and enjoy
have
the
a great
nice
day.
sunny weather. All right, bye-bye.